All right, everyone, happy Friday. I'm sorry we have a video on, actually Thursday. I'm sorry we have a video after we just did the test, but we are starting lesson 311, chapter 3 tomorrow, and so we need to get going with that, okay? So here we go. Chapter 311, how can I rewrite it? Simplifying exponential expressions. Today we'll examine how to simplify expressions with exponents. Using patterns, you will develop strategies to simplify expressions when the exponents are too large to expand on paper. Here's the thing. As we begin this chapter, I want to give you just an insight here. Pretty much the way this goes is people look at exponents and you're like, oh, this is so easy, piece of cake, I got this, no problem. It starts out that way, but it gets very complicated very quickly, and so you need to be very sure that you follow the basics. So what we're doing right now is going to sound really stupid, really simple, really basic, but I really want you to grasp what we're doing here, please. And if you catch yourself falling behind, immediately let me know, okay? Problem 3-1, and write these down on your paper, okay? Problem 3-1. How can an exponent is shorthand for repeated multiplication. For example, n to the fourth power means n times n times n times n. In an exponential expression like b to the power of a, b is called the base and a is called the exponent. Please write that down. B to the power of a, this is your base, and this is called your exponent. Write it down. Okay? Expand each of the expressions below. For example, to expand x to the third power, you would write x times x times x. Now, here's what I want you to do. You write problem 3-1, and we're going to write a. All these rules apply from this point forward. Whenever you see a problem with exponents, you must always write the original problem, period. Always, always, always write it down. Don't you dare just write the answer. So like for this one right here, I know, you look at it and you're like, really, 8 to the 7, y to the 7th, write it down. And then you put y times y times y times y times y times y. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Times y. Why? Because I said so. That was really stupid. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. So please write down b, 5 times the quantity of 2m to the third power. Now here already, things are going to start getting a little bit more complicated. So those of you who think you know what you're doing, here you go. Pause the video just a second and please expand that expression for me and see what you get. When you got it, unpause. Let's see if you actually got it right. Go. Okay, now here's the very important thing to note. Stuff in parentheses, that is what is being affected by the third power, not the 5. Therefore, you should have had 5 times 2m times 2m times 2m. Now you could have put the 2m all in parentheses, you could have done that way and that way, or you could have, that's okay, but that is what we're looking for. Does that make sense? All right, cool. Did you get it right? I hope so. All right, now let's see. Think you know it? Do it. Unpause when you're ready. Okay, for this one, here's what I was looking for, and I know that's probably not what you had. Here's what I wanted. X times x times x times x times x times x. X to the third power 2 times. And then last but not least, how about letter D? Well, it should be pretty straightforward. It's 4 times x times x times x times x times x times y times y. Okay, and of course you always write down the original problem, right? And then put that answer below it. Good. Now again, as I said, you read this and you're like, this is really simple, really stupid, Mr. Ramirez. I get it. It's a piece of cake. They are going to build on itself, so please hang with me here, okay? Problem 3-2. Ms. Peters has just explained to her class how to simplify exponents by using the number 1. She wrote the following on the board. Now, technically, you're supposed to copy this down. I don't mind if you don't copy it as long as you pay close attention. See if you can figure out what happened here. Where is she talking about number 1? What is going on here? How'd she get it? So she started with this, x times y to the 8th over y to the 2nd, and got to this. Why and how is, what's going on there? And then from there she went to this, and then this, and then her final answer, which is that. The question is, can you figure out what she did and why? So I'm going to pause, again, I want you to pause again, I want you to try, really think about this, and I want you to think about the reasoning behind it. So I want you to pause, I want you to analyze that, and try to figure out what happened. When you're ready and you think you know, unpause it. Okay, so these two things right here are identical. This expression is equal to this expression right here. All that happened is you took these terms and you just split them up. I mean, imagine if you had x times y times y times y times y, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 over y times y. She said, well, why don't I just take two of these y's and two of these y's and put them across each other or over each other. So this x, I'm just going to put as x over 1 times y to the second over y to the second times y to the 6, because there's 6 y's left, over 1. Now, if I were going to multiply fractions, I just multiply across. So what ends up happening is it's kind of like I just put these together, combine everything here, and go x times y squared and y to the 6. Oh, those two combined to get y to the 8th power. So it's the same thing. But she separated them out that way, and of course I can't erase this without, maybe. She separated it that way so that she could get rid of this right here, because she noticed that y to the second power over y to the second power is the same as 1. And that just gets rid of those values. So I come to this part here, and I just get x times y to the 6th power, which simplifies to x times y to the 6th power. Make sense? Okay. Well, you're going to prove it now. So here is the last slide of the day. Simplify each, well, there's one more, it's a comment, but here's the last problem of the day. Simplify each of the expressions below using what you know about exponents and the number 1. Start by expanding the exponents and then simplify your results. Okay? So now if they are already expanded, like problem number 1 is already expanded, you can't expand that anymore. You are going to write the original problem, so please write I right there, or number 1. Okay? And then we're just going to simplify it. Now, again, if we're talking about 1, we can say, hey, we're going to simplify those two right there. That just cancels out. And so I'm left with x squared. Now you could have said, hey, that becomes x over 1 times x over x times x over 1. Those cancel out. You're left with x squared. That's fine too. Okay? Answer x squared. All right. So now please do number 2. So write it, simplify it, and tell me what you got. Okay, when you expand that, you should have gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1, 2. If I separate this out right there, this becomes a giant 1, and therefore eliminates, and it's gone, and you're left with x to the 3rd power over 1, which is x to the 3rd power. For number 3, well, that's kind of weird, interesting. So x to the 2nd power is just x times x, and x to the 3rd power is x times x times x. Now, you could have a multiplication sign there, but you don't necessarily need it. So if you got rid of that multiplication sign and just took this value, oh, it's not going to let me do that. If I just took this and put it together, I just get all that. And total, I end up with x to the 5th. And then last but not least, number 4, n to the 3rd times n to the 5th. Oh, n to the 3rd times n to the 5th. And I end up with n to the 8th. N to the 8th. Okay? All right. What we just did here is pretty straightforward. I don't expect it to be really tough at this point, but I want to make sure that what we explained hopefully makes sense to you, okay? And so we are going to pick up where we left off right here. We're gonna continue this tomorrow, okay? And it is going to get more complicated, so just be careful with that. Here is my comment for today. Enjoy. Whenever you're done, you can unpause or whatever you want to do, and we are finished. So have a great day. I will see you tomorrow.